So mostly, I just wanted to ask for a conversation starter. I'm going to be on the boat, and so apart from CoffeeScript, I also work on Backbone.js, and I bet some folks in the room here have used it. We're working on a new major release that includes push state support, so that you can have your real URLs as well as your hash URLs falling back in IE, and there's some tricks with how that's implemented. So if you're interested in that or you use Backbone, I want to talk to you to make sure we do it right the first time. Thanks.
All right, so I'm here to pimp a library called Fog. The URL is fog.io. It abstracts a lot of web services for interacting with other servers. If you're using Carrier Wave or if you're using Paperclip, you might already be using Fog to upload files to S3. The other really cool thing it did was when there was a startup holiday when Amazon failed in late April, it made it really easy for us to just change our scripts to use a different AWS region. We booted up all our servers in the West Coast, and we were trucking again in just a couple hours. So that's it.
All right, thanks, Aaron. So how many people here have been doing Ruby for at least 7 years? Okay, a few of you. So for the rest of you that don't have like this ridiculous beard, this is a history lesson. How many people have used PDF library prawn? Awesome, a ton of you. I wrote that. And how many of you have used PDF Writer? That's even better. Very few of you. So PDF Writer is the reason why prawn exists, and PDF Writer is the most horrible Ruby library that I've ever worked with. I could say that because I was the one that was responsible for taking over maintenance after it was abandoned for 2 years. So the thing is, when I first learned about PDF Writer, it wasn't that bad. So when I took on the when I got interested in it, I was writing reporting software, and the main thing that reporting software did well was print out nicely formatted tables for printable output. Those tables, when you're using PDF Writer, because of memory leaks, the memory would expand like by n squared on the records. So basically, it would immediately swap after you had something like over a couple pages. And so a 1,000-page report would take 15 or 18 hours to generate. And people used this library for years before prawn existed because PDF Writer was the only pure Ruby PDF implementation, which was kind of cool. And back when I met the maintainer of it, Austin, in 2005, the library was still, 2005. The library was still sort of moving on. He did a talk about it at RubyConf. But Austin wasn't the easiest guy in the world to deal with in the Ruby community, and he was kind of a curmudgeon. And that sort of affected the project negatively in a big way. By the time I met him again in 2006, he was to the point where he just absolutely was burned out on working on PDF Writer. There were all of these bugs that were still in the system, and he just didn't fix them, and he wouldn't assign a new maintainer. And this wasn't GitHub era. This was Ruby Forge plus using CVS for the repository. So it was the kind of era where maintainers still actually mattered because the job really fucking sucked. And the thing is that this project is a really hard project. PDF is actually sort of cool because it does so many things. Like, for example, how many people here know what kerning, baseline, letting, all of those things, typography stuff, right? So I didn't know any of that shit when I got involved in this. And if you want to do anything with PDF, you have to know all of that. And then you have to know all of the stuff that goes on with binary file processing, right? So you literally, if you want to, say, generate a PNG, you have to split out the alpha channels yourself. You have to do everything down to that lowest level. So it was a really fucking hard project, and that's what people didn't appreciate about PDF Writer. So when PDF Writer was sticking around for years without it being fixed, what happened was no one wanted to work with Austin, but everyone wanted it to be fixed. I think that at the first GORUCO, Zed Shaw said to me, "Fork that fucker," which I thought about it because the point that he made to me was because I was using it in my reporting library, and that reporting library was actually more popular than PDF Writer itself, that I was de facto maintaining it. In fact, Austin would not do a bug fix release, but he gave me some monkey patches. So if you look back in the history of Report, you'll find something that says, fix awful PDF Writer memory leak as a module or something like that we used to mix in. I'm going to sort of jump ahead here and say that people cared enough about this problem to sort of support me as I gradually worked with Austin to get to the point where after 2 years of hammering on the guy, talking to him privately when no one else would, he put me in charge as maintainer of that project. Okay, so once I got into that project, I made like 2 releases, and then after that realized the project was maintainable. And then I worked on Prawn. After a year or so of working on Prawn, I became the same miserable asshole that and what I realized is that community leadership and being a good hacker are separate skill sets, and you need both to do well. And if you look at what's going on with Ruby Gems right now, maybe this would be a lesson to you guys.
All right, hi. My name's Mike. This is a really fast talk called Your Reference Leak is Showing. This is me hard at work. I help make these at Paperless Post, and we're hiring, and we're really awesome. We have learned from the best. Like this guy, even if he doesn't want us to think that he helped us, he has a lot. And this guy, and this guy, and that guy. But they're wizards, and we are mere mortals. And we all know something, that your memory usage sucks. It's just true. Right now, your thin instances are growing, alerts are going off, someone's paging you, or they would have if it was 20 years ago. They're texting you, and you have a Munin chart that looks like that. And you have to explain that to someone that you work for. The question is, can you fix it? And you can. And I've only taken a minute, so I have 2 full minutes to tell you how you can fix it. You can use monitoring. You can parse and analyze the logs that you are already collecting. You can watch your resident set size, how much memory your application is using. You can write some tests, all of you. You can take no prisoners, and you can go down the rabbit hole. And here's what I mean by that. Monitoring. If you're not doing it, just stop listening and go do it. Get some Munin in your life, or something else that's better that I don't know about. Parse and analyze your logs. Take your Rails logs. They are in a consistent format all over your system. Grep them, import them, own them, be them, understand what they're trying to tell you. Watch your RSS. If you don't know what that is, it's time to embrace your inner wizard. Learn a little bit about memory use and how it grows over time and why. Write tests. I mean memory tests. Assert memory usage. Do something like this. Should not leak that much memory do end. Unfortunately, that's real. Take no prisoners. What I mean, leave no stone unturned. Trust no one. Demand an explanation. Be ready to provide your own. You work on a team with other programmers. It's all of your responsibility to make sure that your code doesn't suck, that your app runs smoothly and doesn't eat too much memory. You can handle it. Trust me. I have an example for that graph that you saw before. Lines of code changed. 3, amount of memory saved. I can't tell you. You wouldn't trust me anymore. Unless you need to, don't do these things. Inject is not the same as map or collect. Learn what it does. Don't reload a giant collection of objects in a controller action just because you feel like it. You'll suffer if you do it. Don't allocate too many objects. You'll kiss your memory goodbye. You can do it. Trust me. If I can, you can. Thank you.
So I'm here to partially refute a lot of what I've stood for the last 5 years and say that high ceremony BDD probably sucks for most of what you're working on. Just let that sink that in for a second. And why am I having this change of heart? It's because I am now spending thousands and thousands of my own dollars on development as part of my startup. And I realized in the first few months, as we were writing Cucumber specs that detailed and excruciatingly what everything in the app was supposed to do, and we weren't moving fucking fast enough. And then when we decided, oh crap, we got this feature wrong, it was really difficult to change. So for an early stage startup, if you're like sitting down and trying to figure out ahead of time what every screen is supposed to look like, how it's supposed to act, what your flow is, and documenting that in Cucumber, you're doing it wrong. So what I'm here to say, besides that, is that what I'm saying now applies to early stage startups. So you still have not gotten market validation of what you're building. So you need to build stuff as fast as possible. The other thing is too that from the very beginning, as soon as you start putting product in front of customers, you should be using split testing, multivariate testing, this sort of technology where you can A/B test your features just to get some sort of validation. That means that it's much more important to be thinking about what actually that feature does for your business rather than you got it to work correctly. And this is where I think a lot of developers fuck up. They sit there and they want to make sure that the code meets the spec, but the spec doesn't freaking matter. What matters is if the feature validates some sort of assumption that you made about how your app was going to improve your business. So what I want to see the community working on and what I want to try to help spur on is delayed build pipeline. So think about stuff like Cucumber that lets you dictate acceptance criteria, but your acceptance criteria is after your code is deployed. Your acceptance criteria that you capture at the time that you're defining that feature is validation of those assumptions. So you, as developers, when you sit down with the product people, you should be capturing, okay, this is going to improve retention by X%. This is going to improve engagement in this way, this click-through, stuff like that. Document that as part of your code, commit it, have that run automatically at intervals that make sense, and if it doesn't pass that assumption, have it break a build so that you can go back and revisit it. That is much more important than whether you met your Cucumber spec. And that's what I'm here to say. I did sooner.
So I've spent the last couple of days starting to get familiar with Sprout Core, which I really dig so far. And the way that this works in the app that I'm working on is that there's a Sprout Core sort of full screen, one-page experience that fits inside of another Rails app. And so I ran into a couple of issues there. One real simple one is that Sprout Core expects GUIDs as the primary key in your JSON that you're sending down to it, whereas Rails default is an ID. It's pretty easy to change either on the Rails side or on the Sprout Core side in your data source. You can just replace, add a GUID field there. Then the other piece was how do you deal with session authorization? So I wanted my Rails app to essentially handle logging somebody in, handle session-based cookie-based sessions rather, and I had that extend for the XHR requests that come out of Sprout Core back into the API to be able to use it for authorization. And that works great in production, but in development, Sprout Core does some different stuff where it helps you with a on-the-fly compilation server that runs typically on port 4020. And when it tries to then go and talk to your Rails app on development on port 3000, doesn't work from a cross-domain request failure. Sprout Core has some built-in stuff to allow you to proxy certain subpaths to another subpath, but then, and that solves cross-site request, but not the authorization issue I talked about before. In other words, it looks like an anonymous request coming when it comes through that proxy. So two approaches to try to solve the problem. One of them I'm still working on. I think I'll get there, but not in time for this talk, which is a rack-based approach to be able to just mount the Sprout Core development server inside of your Rails app. But the other one, which was really easy to get up and running, is just to throw Nginx in front of the two, proxying your path to your Sprout Core app and /static over to the development server, and everything else, typical over to port 3000 of your Rails app, and that works great for development. So this all took me, probably a total of 4 or 5 hours of digging and playing with it. So hopefully, if I save that for you, we're in good shape. To be continued. If you're interested in working with Sprout Core, you've got experience and can help me with other mistakes that I'm going to make. Find me in the boat, or if you want to do some freelance work on a project like this, let me know.
All right, hey guys. So this is really just kind of a hack that I hacked on for the past couple of days. My name is Harris Amin. I work for dailyburn.com, and I'm also just one quick plug is I'm co-organizer at NYC Ruby. NYC.RB guys are great. We're a different group, but anyways, come check us out. So there's this library that someone released called MailCatcher, which is really cool. Basically, if you're developing locally, you can spawn this thing up, and it catches your local emails, and it can show you, the HTML plain text source. It's written in Ruby. It uses Event Machine, and it's really a Sinatra app using Event Machine. I felt like I could do this with Node, and so I tried it, and here you go. Obviously, it looks a lot similar. So this is, I stole all of his assets, but it's MIT, so it's all good. But yes. So here I have a Rails app where I'm just going to send an email. And lo and behold, it doesn't work. Oh, because I don't have the node server running, sorry. Run, baby, run. All right, so node server is running. Well, that sucks. Anyways, really cool. Live demos suck, but yeah, it's called Catchy. I'm gonna have it on GitHub soon once I fix the bugs, and hopefully it'll just be an npm package. But yeah, play with Node. Express is kind of cool. It's basically Node's answer to Sinatra. Really, really fun stuff. And yeah, use Fey. That's the other thing. I really, really like Fey. It's a cool library, and I swear to God, I was using it before the Rails cast came out on this. So just to let you know, really cool pub/sub libraries, super simple. And 0.6 introduce clustering support with Redis as an engine, but you can easily add your own engine. So I'm actually working on adding some other engines on that too. So yeah. So my name is Harrison Mean. Catch me, and if you wanna, and I'll tell you about the GitHub repo once I have it up.
Hi, my name is Adam Fields. I do web application architecture and performance scaling consulting. And at the moment, I'm working on a startup called Morningside Analytics. We do cluster-based analysis of influence in blogs and social networks. Like many of you, among other things, we use Amazon EC2. So this probably looks familiar with you for you if you've used EC2. And this console sucks. I wrote a Rails-based open source, not great to see on very little resolution. This project is up on GitHub, which is github.com/fields. This shows you an overview of all of your EC2 instances, all of the volumes that are attached to them, and all of the snapshots that you currently have in place. It also gives you some utilities for making new snapshots, generating host files. It will snapshot all of the volumes that are attached to an instance at the same time, as well as give you a rake task to do that automatically that you can run from a cron job. And some nice things, it will automatically generate graphs for you, showing you all of your instances and their attached volumes and snapshots. The really nice thing is you can output this as a dot file, which you can then, where's downloads, you can open that up in OmniGraffle if you need to open with, give you a nice little dot format graph there. Hide my stencils somewhere. It's in there somewhere. There it is. And then you can manipulate those individually if you need to generate nice graphs. It's kind of rudimentary at this point, but it's constantly undergoing very, very, very slow development as I work on it in my spare time. So if this is something that's be useful for you, download it and give it a try. Thanks.
So I was checking Twitter and I saw Josh praying, please, please, please don't rain, and I went and I checked the weather sites. And as you leave right now, there might be water coming from the sky. Don't be afraid. It certainly looks like it has been raining. But if this works, I'll show you that the rain is probably going away and it will not affect our party on the boat. So don't give up, and see you guys on the boat.
So
okay, so you can't see what I'm seeing, but I'm going to describe it anyway, now that I'm up here. So the hope was to pimp a little plugin I wrote called Rack After Reply. Now hopefully this should be of interest to anyone writing rack applications, which is probably pretty much anyone here. And what it does is it exposes. Is that working? Nope. Come on. Hey! Okay, so there it is on GitHub, right there. So a quick demo. What it does is it exposes a hook that'll fire in between requests. And so here's a quick example. I have just a Rails controller there. It's going to sleep for 4 seconds, and if I run it in the terminal, I was running it in this window. No, got my windows confused. All right, so there's the app running, and so that's going to sleep for 4 seconds before outputting anything, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. But if I do this, I'm just going to append to the rack environment this lambda here. So this sleep will represent some work that you're trying to put outside of the duration of the request. So maybe this could be garbage collection, for example, or perhaps you're collecting some metrics during the course of the request and you want to flush those metrics out to a database or something like that. Or perhaps you're collecting exception information and you need to send that off to your notification service. And so if I run this, wrong window, you can see the terminal, the request comes back straight away, and then after 4 seconds, that's going to finish whatever work it was doing. So I think this is an important thing that we should have, that we need added to the rack specification. So if there's anybody here that's influential with rack, then I'd love to talk to you about this. I think it's something that we could all make great use of.
All right, sweet. 4 minutes. It'll probably be less than that. I want to talk about the Simulchart Phoenix. For those only looking at the slides, that's me. Hi. I'm co-founder of Mashin, consulting company. We do Rails, JavaScript, all sorts of fun shit. Cash on Twitter, Trotter on GitHub. And this is what I really want to talk about, or part of what I want to talk about. Simulchart is this thing that we wrote last year in Node.js, and it does these real-time charts. So you push in a value, and then the chart updates immediately on the page without like refreshing or anything like that. And it scrolls nicely to the left, and that's really cool. And we wrote it in Node.js for Node Knockout, and it took us like 48 hours, and that was sweet. But then I died a little inside, and I cried because Node.js's library support for various databases is not quite where it could be. It's gotten better. But also, writing a full-fledged web application in Node is not exactly the most fun thing ever. The evented model is good, and it's nice, and it fits certain circumstances, but it doesn't fit all of them. And we had to go learn like this whole new framework to write this sweet, graphing thing. And that wasn't exactly awesome either. So we kind of asked ourselves, like, hey, can we has this with Rails and just be able to write Rails and do real-time stuff? And the answer is absolutely fucking not. You cannot do that. Because each Rails app is its own process, and you get like 32 connections, and congratulations, you just occupied all your Rails processes, and you're done. That sucks. So we decided, well, there's got to be some way to make this happen. So we wrote this web server called Chloe, right? And the tagline is, it's a real-time web server that doesn't suck. And we wrote it with Erlang, because that's awesome. And if you want it, because you're impulsive, you can go to github.com/mashin/Chloe and download it. Fantastic. But if you're not as impulsive, check out this sweet little like UML-ish thing. And what happens is your browser goes to Rails and says, give me index.html. And then when it gets that, it then goes, yo, Chloe, give me chloe.js. That looks like a cool thing. And then it goes, holy shit, I got WebSockets now. And that's good. And so then it sends a message. And the message goes to Chloe, not to your Rails app. It goes to Chloe. And Chloe goes, oh, sweet. OK, we got a message. I'm going to send that off to Rails. So it sends it off to a known URL on your Rails app. And then Rails, at some point later, maybe right then, it goes, hey, I got some messages to send back to you. So it sends them to Chloe. And then Chloe sends them down to the browser. And it's like, hey, your buddy says hi, or bye in this case. So if that convinced you, again, github.com/mashin/Chloe. But, maybe you're still not convinced. It does fall back. It's not just WebSockets, because WebSockets work in like some things, but not everything. So it does WebSockets. It does cross-domain XHR, which I think is like Firefox. And it does long polling, which is like everybody. Everybody loves the long poll. So if that convinces you, again, github.com/mashin/Chloe. Because bullets freaking rock. So why would you want to use this, right? Okay, yeah, it does WebSockets. Who the hell actually needs them? Well, first of all, if you're doing in-app chat, which everyone will tell you WebSockets is awesome for, it's the poster child, or poster child, depends on how you want to look at it. People like it, and by people I mean your users, they like it when shit changes on the page. It makes them feel happy and like special. And then polling and reloading, if you like want to make shit change without them doing stuff, that's like last bubble. You don't want that, okay? So if you want this bubble, you need real time. You need WebSockets. You need like long poll that updates immediately, because that's a buzzword, and that's how you get your $50 billion IPO, and that's how you get rich. So if that convinced you, because you want $50 billion, github.com/mashin/Chloe. So I've got like 30-ish seconds, 25 seconds. If you have any questions, they must include a nautical reference as an example, since we won't have time. You could say like, yo, Trotter, could you use this to do like a real-time map of where our boat's going to be tonight? And then I could look at it on my phone. And the answer is abso-fucking-lutely. If you have any other questions, though, feel free to ask them on the boat, because that's like just one giant nautical reference.
Hi, my name's Dave, and I am a JavaScript noob. I know Ruby, I know backend stuff, and recently I was like, okay, fine, I should learn JavaScript. Specifically, I should learn what prototypal inheritance was, because I didn't really know that. And I did this last weekend, and I want to see if I can teach it to you guys in 5 minutes. What prototypal inheritance basically is it says everything in JavaScript is an object, right? So I have one object, and this will be the prototype, and I want all my other objects to look just like it. So I have an example of this. We'll use a point. It says, okay, here's a prototype for a point. It has x and y is 0, and it has a print function. So what we're going to do is we're going to run this in Node in this other tab right here. And then we can be like, oh, p.print. And it says 0, 0. Right? That's easy. And I can make another point. I'm just going to put this down right now. Okay, so we can make another point. We can say, oh, this will be a blank object, and we're going to set its prototype, which this you can't do. Don't do this in production, but this is __proto equals p, and then we can do p2.x. We can set it to maybe 5, and then if you do p2.print, it prints, right? So that's just saying, oh, we'll look up the prototype chain. And I don't have a print method right on P2, so I'll look up and it's in the prototype. But this is not how you're supposed to do it. What you're actually supposed to do is use an object like point. So I wrote one of these too. It's not really, you write a constructor function and then you add the print function to the prototype. So here we have the constructor, you set x and y, and then the prototype has just a print function. So we copy this and we run it here. And we'll make P3, and we'll do P3, and you use this new operator, which was like, oh, Java and C++ are like really in right now, in the mid-90s when we made this. Maybe we should use that. So we'll make a new point like this, and we'll say, oh, it'll be at 1, 2. And then the same thing, right? We can do P3.print, and it'll be at 1, 2. The more fun thing that I learned, though, is that you can write your own new operator. We're going to do it with capital new. And I'm just going to try to explain to you what it does really fast. So all the new operator does is it makes a blank object, and then it applies the constructor to the object, sets the prototype. If you want to do introspection correctly, also sets the constructor, and then returns the object. I realize that might have been a little fast, but hopefully some of you got that. And we'll put this in. And what this function specifically is doing is after it sets up its blank object, it's returning another function, and that's basically just for syntactic sugar. So what we can do now is we'll use our new function, and we'll make p4 equals capital new, and then we say, oh, we're going to make a point. And then because it returns a function, now we can call it and say, oh, we'll do it at 10:15. And then there's a little extra stuff because it's not exactly the same, right? You have the constructor actually in the object, but if we do p4.x, it's 10. If we do p4.print, it prints. And if you check the proto, it's the proper thing. Never, never do this. The new operator is like multiple orders of magnitude faster than doing any other kind of thing. But this really helped me understand what prototypal inheritance is and maybe it helps you too. So thanks so much.
Sorry about the screen being cut off, but I think you guys can kind of see the site. I work on the site called Get Hits. Sorry about the actual designing. I know it's pretty terrible. So what the site is basically I basically aggregate GitHub data to basically display by location. So one of the things, somebody just plugged DuckDuckGo not too long ago. So one of the things is I had a conversation with Gabe Wember, which the one started DuckDuckGo, that you know, this seems like a good idea, and a lot of people are using GitHub right now. It's very important to a lot of people, but there's not a lot of way to really discover things on GitHub, at least the people that you care about in your community. And so I basically talked to Gabe, and I hacked this together in like one night, from like midnight to like 4 o'clock in the morning. Then I got the fever for the whole next week. That's why the site looks like this. So one of the interesting things is there's a lot of interesting data on GitHub, but I don't know if there's anybody that's aggregating data in this way. And also, one of the interesting things is, since they, you know, I do see GitHub being as a platform that maybe something that you could build something useful for other people and potentially maybe making money on it, or at least, you know, things like this would be cool for people to discover other projects. So if you're interested in working on this, please let me know. I will be on the boat. Thank you.
Okay, so I wanted to talk a little bit about Lua. My name's Joshua Belanco. So this is not my quote. It's a quote I'm borrowing from a friend of a friend. He said, Lua doesn't need its own conferences. Lua conferences should just be embedded inside other conferences. So welcome to GORUCO 2011. So last weekend I learned Lua, and now I like it a lot. And I want to take 4 minutes and show you why. So if you go looking for Lua information, you're going to find that 90% of it is about the C interface, which kind of stinks because it's so much more than an embedded scripting language, but it's still a very small language. How small? That small. Those are all of the types in Lua. You've got nils, booleans, numbers, ints and floats together, strings, functions, and you put a little curly brace and you get a table. Everything is a table. Need an array? That's a table. Need a hash? That's a table. Need an object? That's a table. Need a table? Oh, you better believe that's a table. Tables have elements, and those elements can be accessed by keys. So you can use either the square brace method of finding an element by a key, or you can use a dot notation to find. Both work the same, but if the element in your table is a function, you have the option of using a colon syntax. If you use a colon syntax to call a function, then the table itself is passed as an implicit first argument to the function. So for example, if you've got foo as a table and doit is a function that accepts self, foo.doit foo is the same thing as foo colon doit. That brings me to metatables. Oh, metatables. Any table in Lua can optionally have a metatable, and metatable gives the runtime hints, like how to add, subtract, or print a table, but most importantly, there is a key in a metatable called _index. If you access a key on a table and that key doesn't exist, but the table has a metatable, it will look at _index to find out what to do. So for example, if foo is a table and foo has a function say that prints hello, and then bar is a table, and you set bar's metatable so that _index points at foo, when you do bar.say, that's going to call foo's function and print hello. Aha, prototype-based inheritance. This is really fun and powerful stuff. So let's have a little fun. I'm sorry I don't have enough time to let you copy that down. That's really quick typing. Okay. So let's define a class as a table. Let's give that class a function new, and that function is going to accept the self parameter, which is going to assign it to the metatable on a table as the index key. So now we can do class :new, and we have a class constructor. So if we say foo is class :new, and foo.say is a function that prints hello, now when we instantiate bar from foo, bar has a function say that says hello. We just made a class. Okay. What if we wanted to add superclass inheritance? Well, add a second parameter, check and see if it's there. If it is, assign that to the _index, otherwise assign self. Now Baz is class foo. Baz can have another function called shout, and if you instantiate that, then you have both shout and say. All right, what's all this? Well, you could even take variadic arguments. If all of those are tables, you could combine all the tables into another table, and now all of a sudden, if foo is a class that has a function say and bar is a class, well, there you have it.
Hello. I'm Shane Becker. I go by Vegan Straight Edge on the internet. I look like that. For the kids in the back of the class, it's that. I work at Engine Yard. I'm their open source cheerleader. I work primarily on promoting Rubinia, so I've made t-shirts and stickers. If you want some, find me or in the back or email us at community@Rubinius. Bad slides are so bad that they crash space shuttles. Seriously. Seriously, they did. So here are 12 pro tips for making your slides less horrible. And I've given this talk a few times before, and I'm sorry if you've heard some of it. I want to keep giving it until, as a Ruby community, we are the shining example of good presentation slides. So use big text, as big as you can get on your slide. What helps with big text? We all know that if you want to make your app better, faster, stronger, use NoSQL. If you want to make your slides bigger, better, faster, stronger, use no text, or at least less text. So don't have bullets, because you are all reading the 4th bullet by now, while I'm still talking about the first one. It's too small, you can't see in the back of the room. If you're using Keynote, just delete this master slide. In fact, delete all the master slides except for the one that's a big title and a big picture. This room is perfect. A perfect example for this slide. The lighting up here really sucks for the projector and the screen. It's better through the middle there, but because this bank can't be left on with that bank turned off, the contrast on this screen is really bad. So don't use colors like this. And your computer, a foot and a half from your face, is much brighter and much closer than this projector situation always is. So turn your brightness all the way down. Go outside and sit in the sun. If you can still see your slides, you're doing all right. So we all know that Ruby doesn't scale. So by transitive property, slides about Ruby don't scale either. So don't run your text all the way to the edge of the screen. Use what they call in the film and animation world the text safe area, text safe box, or the action safe box. If the location of your content doesn't matter, don't change the location of your content. Don't make me work to follow along. Humans are really good at very small tables. Past 2x2 or maybe 3x3, it's really hard to spot the patterns here, right? So nerds, don't use big tables. Make us some charts. Yellow goes down and to the right. That's clear. Maybe not on that chart, but charts are clear. So Evan didn't use this table. This is the how does Rubinia stack up to MRI in this one case. So that table is not super helpful. This is actually an easier table. But he used this chart. So that's a little clearer how big that difference is, how drastic it is. So use charts, not tables, and apply the less text principle to your charts as well. So I like Helvetica. I like Helvetica New specifically. I like it so much that I had some paintings made about it. Museo is also a good typeface. Museo Slab also. Comic Serif if you want to get fun but not use the Comic Sans. Use something big and bold and clear. Mr. Sea Creature, wherever you are. I'm a big fan of Helvetica New tightly kerned typography jokes. So don't use this or this or this, and definitely not that. Okay, so this room is also perfect for this one because we're not sitting at an incline. So the kids in the back of the class can't see everything on the bottom, probably 2/3 of the slides. So put everything important on the top. Maybe if you have like Creative Commons URLs, you could put those in the bottom or whatever. So I don't know if anyone in the back can see this, but on the bottom of this slide it says no bottom. If you're going to have pictures or screenshots in your slides, like maybe adorable puppies, make them big. Use your whole canvas. Don't put them 200 pics in the middle. So if you want to show some codes, don't do a dark background. Use a light background. Don't use small text. Don't show a lot of it. Give me another 30 seconds. I got this. So these are Yehudas. Use as little code as possible to illustrate your point, and make it bold and clear on a white background. And then, so if you have a complex diagram, like a UML diagram of your app workflow, right? That's complicated and clear, and I have to like use a laser pointer and point to shit. Instead, gray everything back except the one piece of it that you're talking about, and then move through your thing in pieces. That's clearer what I'm talking about. And finally, the build up and the breakdown with the codes. This is also a Yehuda jam. No, I'm sorry, this is someone else. So if you want to get to a bigger stack of code, get there in pieces, right? So here's RSS. That's the changes we made to make it Atom, and that's the change we made to make activity streams. I got this. Hold on. I got like 3 slides. So when you're making your slides, remember this moment of sitting out there, right? Designed for the audience.